Joe Biden says, you know what? Maybe we should build that border wall. Major League Baseball goes from dumb to dumber with their Georgia voting law protest. Plus, Dr. Anthony Fauci has no idea why Texas COVID numbers are going down. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with Joe Biden because one of the first things he did, in addition to killing thousands of jobs with the Keystone Pipeline, was to set off a series of orders that have directly contributed to this border crisis, this surge at the border. And I'm not talking just about unaccompanied minors. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of illegal border crossers just since Biden came into office. So what did he do? He ended the Remain in Mexico policy, which by doing that provided an incentive for people to come. He reinstated catch and release, which provided an incentive for people to come. He ordered an end to deportations, which guess what? Provided an incentive for people to come. And of course, he halted border wall construction. Now, supplies, equipment, they're just sitting there while people are coming over. And the thing is, we know border walls work. Look at San Diego, El Paso, places where the wall has been in place for years. Illegal immigration dropped. It works. Well, guess what? With this surge, with this crisis, now Joe Biden and his team, they're kind of rethinking things. They're thinking, you know what? Maybe we should finish that construction. And here's the story. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas told department employees he may restart border wall construction to plug what he called gaps in the current barrier. In a conversation with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement employees, Mr. Mayorkas was asked about his plans for the wall, and he said that while President Biden has canceled the border emergency and halted Pentagon money flowing to the wall, that leaves room to make decisions on finishing some gaps in the wall. Mr. Mayorkas, according to notes of the ICE session reviewed by the Washington Times, said Customs and Border Protection, which oversees the wall, has submitted a plan for what it wants to see happen moving forward. So they want to fix the gaps in the wall. What do you think is happening at those gaps and other places where the border wall has not been finished? Well, Richie McGinnis over at the Daily Caller, he was on the Donlin Report the other night on News Nation, giving us a report on his multiple trips to the border, what he has seen, talking to Border Patrol officials and getting their reaction.
They said that this is unlike anything they had ever seen before. Obviously there are ebbs and flows in the surges of migrants at the border. The amount of the volume is, determined by the weather and how easy it is to cross at certain times. And so this is a time when we typically do see a surge. But basically every single Border Patrol officer that I spoke to and anybody speaking in a law enforcement capacity said that this was unlike anything that they'd seen before.
The worst they have ever seen. And make no mistake, folks, things are getting worse. Here is what Border Patrol officials have to deal with.
Customs and Border Protection has confirmed the number of migrants crossing into the U.S. has reached its highest point in at least 15 years. In the month of March alone, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol encountered more than 171,000 migrants compared to just more than 100,000 in February and roughly 78,000 in January.
This is unbelievable. This is the worst in 15 years. The worst in 15 years. And like I said, it keeps getting worse because there's no disincentives. People want to come because Biden says, come on over. We want this flood. We want the chaos. We want potential Democrat voters. And how about that border wall? Here's more from McGinnis.
Last time I was there in October of 2020, we flew over a few hundred miles of the border fence, which is in progress. And I saw dozens of teams, construction teams actively working on the fence. This trip, I didn't encounter any construction teams working actively, but I did encounter a large parking lot full of fence that was just sitting there, clearly nothing being done with it.
So that's not much of a deterrent. Supplies and equipment just sitting in a parking lot. I don't think that's going to stop one sex trafficker, one gang member, one drug dealer just sitting there. But then let's get back to DHS Secretary talking about filling the gaps in the wall. Here's more. The president has communicated quite clearly his decision that the emergency that triggered the devotion of DoD funds to the construction of the border wall is ended, but that leaves room to make decisions in particular areas of the wall that need renovation, particular projects that need to be finished, Mayorkas said. He said those parts include gaps, gates, and areas where the wall has been completed, but the technology has not been implemented. Wow. And by the way, the Biden administration, DHS, they're not only mishandling the situation, they're misrepresenting it too, downplaying the danger. The other day, 2 men from Yemen on the terror list were arrested. They were arrested. There was a press release put out on Monday by DHS talking about it. On Tuesday, it was removed. Press release gone, tweet gone, downplaying the situation. Yesterday, at the press briefing, Jen Psaki finally admitted, you know what? Yeah, we are, continuing construction, but she hemmed and hawed, circled back, did all this bogus wording just so she wouldn't admit that, yes, it makes a difference and we're going to build some wall. All right, so next let's talk about Major League Baseball. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 150,000 subscribers, and we can do it with your help. All right, Major League Baseball, folks. They just went from dumb to dumber because keep in mind what they're doing here. They're protesting the Georgia voting law, right? They're standing up for social justice. They want to protect the rights of blacks and other minorities, so they're protesting this law. We're going to move the All-Star game out of the Atlanta area, out of Georgia, to say, you know what? We're going to stand up for BLM and all of this social justice. We're going to become woke. That's what we're doing. Well, look what happened next. Major League Baseball announced that they are moving the 2021 All-Star Game out of Georgia in protest of the state's new voting laws, and it now is reportedly headed to Colorado, which has some rules that are similar, if not more restrictive. The Associated Press reported Tuesday that the MLB will relocate the game to Denver's Coors Field after pulling it from Atlanta over Georgia voting laws. This would be funny if it weren't so serious, folks. Major League Baseball is moving the All-Star Game from the majority black Atlanta area to the majority white Denver. It makes no sense. They're moving from Georgia to Colorado because of voting laws where Colorado has similar voting laws. It's just absolutely outrageous, all in the name of supporting blacks. Well, this is going to cost the Atlanta area $100 million. You don't think that will affect the residents in that area? It's just absolutely outrageous. But here's Governor Brian Kemp, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, comparing the Georgia and Colorado voting laws.
Just all of these hits that keep falling, moving the All-Star game from a city that's, or a metro area that's 51% African-American to a metro area that's 10% African-American that has less early voting days than Georgia has. They have 15, we have 17. They have a photo ID requirement for in-person voting as we do the voter ID here.
Wow. So what is the MLB doing? They went from dumb to dumber. They said, no, we're going to protest this law, even though the law actually encourages security. It doesn't hurt minorities. Free IDs available for anyone in Georgia. And we're going to go and we're going to send a message that by supporting blacks, we're going to hurt blacks. That makes a lot of sense. Here's more.
I mean, you compare where Major League Baseball is headquartered in New York. And I've talked to that issue to nauseam, really, about the discrepancies in how they're boycotting and pulling games out of a state like ours, yet they're headquartered in a state that's more restricted than we are. I mean, it just doesn't add up. And I will tell you, the people here and all over the country have figured this out. They are outraged and they are sick and tired of the cancel culture.
We are all sick of the cancel culture. But you know what? You know what we're also sick of? We're sick of stupid. And what the Major League Baseball has done is just flat out dumb. It does nothing to help the black community. It's going to hurt the Atlanta area to the tune of $100 million. They're protesting Georgia voting laws by going to Colorado, which has similar voting laws. How do you explain that? This is their woke social justice strategy, that we're going to spite the black community in order to stick up for the black community. That's Major League Baseball. That's the woke left right there, and it makes no sense. All right, now let's talk about Dr. Anthony Fauci. He was on MSNBC, and he makes the rounds on all these shows with his fear-mongering. I tell you, if COVID goes away, that guy is out of a job because he's making his living, so to speak, show after show after show, talking about those troublesome variants, talking about don't end the lockdowns, wear your masks even after you're vaccinated, things that make no sense, that do not follow the science, and yet he's out there talking about it. Well, on MSNBC, he was thrown a major curveball because he was asked about Texas, which opened up last month. No mask mandates, no restrictions on businesses. The Texas Rangers held a home game, full capacity. There were no capacity limits at all. So Fauci was asked about this. How do you explain all this opening up and yet hospitalizations, cases are going down in Texas? Here's Fauci.
Yeah, it can be confusing because you may see a lag and a delay because often you have to wait a few weeks before you see the effect of what you're doing right now. There are a lot of things that go into that. I mean, when you say that they've had a lot of activity on the outside, like ball games, I'm not really quite sure. It could be they're doing things outdoors. It's very difficult to just one-on-one compare that.
So basically, he has no clue. He has no idea. And folks, this is not for lack of data. This didn't happen yesterday or a week ago. Texas opened up over a month ago. No mask mandates, no restrictions on businesses. And yet, you know where places are spiking? Places like Michigan that continue the lockdowns. They're seeing spikes. Fauci has no answer, but here's more from it.
But there's always the concern when you pull back on methods, particularly things like indoor dining and bars that are crowded, you can see a delay and then all of a sudden tick right back up. We've been fooled before by situations where people begin to open up, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden, several weeks later, things start exploding on you. So we got to be careful we don't prematurely judge that.
This is the same old stuff. Bars and restaurants are crowded. Watch out. Never go out. Don't do anything. Never take your mask off. That's what he's saying. And yet the science does not support that. 85% of people who have gotten COVID wear a mask regularly. So that didn't do any good. And we know the facts about the disease. 80 to 85% of folks will have little to no symptoms. The vulnerable population, they're almost fully vaccinated. 75% of those 65 and older have received the vaccine. That means the vulnerable population is getting vaccinated. The rest of us, the ones with the 85% that will feel little to no symptoms, it can spread there and they'll be okay. The disease will burn itself out just by spreading to people who won't get sick. Follow the actual science, but Fauci wants to spread fear and contribute to lockdowns. All right, so next, let's talk about this vaccine. We'll carry on in a different vein, and that is CNN and the Washington Post, who were slamming President Trump about the vaccine. Now they're getting some criticism on their own. Because remember, he said a vaccine would be ready by the end of the year. They said that's not possible. No way that's happening. And it turned out to be true. He also said by April of 2021, we would have vaccinations available for all Americans. CNN slammed it. Washington Post slammed it. Well, guess what? That looks like what's happening. CNN and the Washington Post are being criticized for casting doubt on former President Donald Trump's pledge that all U.S. adults would be eligible for the coronavirus vaccine in April 2021. Hundreds of millions of doses will be available every month, and we expect to have enough vaccines for every American by April, Trump said last September, prompting widespread doubt from news networks and prominent health officials, including Dr. Anthony Fauci and then Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Robert Redfield. See, there's no way there will even be a vaccine. Oh, wait, there is. Well, there's no way that all Americans could have access to it by April 2021. Oh, wait, here's more. This week, the Biden administration announced that every adult in every state will have access to the vaccine by April 19th. And then there's this tweet from White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain. All 50 states, every adult, no more priorities or rules to check on the internet. Any adult can get vaccinated in any state as of April 19th. In the meantime, please help a senior get a shot. 75% are at least partly vaccinated. Let's get more done before April 19th. That's exactly what President Trump said was going to happen. But just as a reminder, here were some of the headlines when he was saying that. We have this from the Washington Post. Trump says, without evidence, every American will get coronavirus vaccine by April. And then from CNN, we have Trump says every American can get a coronavirus vaccine by April, but health experts say that's not likely. So is it any wonder that Americans don't trust the media? The media are driven by a left-wing narrative. They are the propaganda arm for the Democrats and the radical left. That's what they're doing. That's why the American people have no trust in the media. And here is a perfect example. Folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. And we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.